Chapter 9 Fireflies at Twilight. When Hoagie and Katie heard the news that the island was full of fruit trees, they almost lost their minds. They didn't even care that there was a fluffy monster living there. Hoagie had been around barking creatures before. "It was probably just a dog. Nothing to be alarmed about," said Hoagie. "Yeah, Hoagie told me all about dogs. They can be really cozy," Katie agreed. "There didn't seem to be anything cozy about it. It was vicious, I say," Joe persisted. "Well, let me be the judge of that. I can tell when a dog is mad, sleepy, playful, or protective. It's all in the body language, you see. Head down, booty up, tail wagging means the dog is happy and wants to play. Hair sticking straight up, teeth showing, its growl coming from its throat means the dog is probably angry or threatened. Laying on its side means the dog is relaxed or sleepy." Hoagie felt like a dog professional. "And how about the constant loud sharp noise it was making? If that's not being angry, I don't know what is," Joe argued. "Oh, that's called barking. Dogs seem to do it all the time for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's to say hi to another dog or to yell at people coming to the door to alert their master. They can do it when they're surprised. At times, dogs bark just to hear their own voices." Hoagie could relate because he loved hearing his own voice when he was singing. Hoagie's memories of his dog back at home warmed his heart. He was thankful when the dog barked because Hoagie always knew when a stranger was near. Hoagie would dart in his little hidey for safety. "I miss that dog. He was one of the good ones," thought Hoagie. Even though Joe didn't agree with Hoagie's judgment of dogs, he agreed to lead them to the new island. They would leave in a few days so they could get some rest before their long trip. Joe and Poppy said their goodbyes and headed back to their flock. He promised to return in 2 days. "What would you say if I invited myself on your trip, Joe?" Poppy asked. "I'd say, are you sure? I would hate for you to be in danger of that dog," answered Joe. "We're lucky we can fly away if anything chases us. I think we'll be okay." "As long as you know we'll be okay, then yes, of course you can come with me." Poppy was very excited and squawked with joy, fluttering around Joe as though she was the world's largest hummingbird. As Joe and Poppy reunited with their flock, Hoagie and Katie met with Katie's parents to discuss their traveling plans. As they chattered away, Mama Kinsey couldn't help but think this adventure would be very different from their last one. For one thing, this trip would be planned. Also, the kids were bigger now and they were more daring, wanting to stay out for longer periods of time. Mama Kinsey couldn't help but feel a little sad that her daughter was growing up so fast. Mama Kinsey remembered when she was a young capybara and wanted to explore. She used to dive with her sisters in the deepest parts of the lake, searching for underwater tunnels to faraway lands. Sometimes they would even find unexpected treasures, containers of food, weird objects, or even shiny gemstones. Mama Kinsey sighed. She knew that Katie was adventurous, just like she had been at that age. How could Mama Kinsey keep her from exploring? Plus, Katie wasn't going alone. She would have brave Hoagie with her. Hoagie was like a brother to Katie and had become a trusted friend of the capybara herd. Mama Kinsey had even grown to love Hoagie like a son. She was also proud of them for taking the chance to see something new and was confident they would be careful. To show her support, Mama Kinsey decided to throw Hoagie and Katie a going-on-vacation party. Mama Kinsey loved throwing parties, and it had been a long time since the family had a shindig. She and her girlfriends would provide delicious snacks of different kinds of fruit like lychees, gooseberries, starfruits, and of course mango. The teenage capybaras would find thick bundles of long, juicy grasses. Mama Kinsey would ask the other forest animals to pitch in. The coatis would bring nuts and seeds, and the great tapirs would take care of fetching twigs, branches, and mixed berries. The smaller forest creatures would carry what they could hold, though they probably would eat their gifts before they even got to the party. Mama Kinsey knew the party would be a hit. The festivities began at the fall of twilight, with the fireflies making a grand appearance, flashing around like tiny twinkling lights. Hoagie loved it when the fireflies came to their parties. Their soft light reminded him of his little girl's nightlight back home. Once again, Hoagie wondered what his girl was up to, and he smiled as he thought how much she would love this special party. By the twinkling light of the fireflies and the gentle glow of the crescent moon, Hoagie performed some magic tricks for the little capybaras. They oohed and awed while the crickets, frogs, and nighttime birds created a musical background for Hoagie's performance. It was truly a perfect evening. Well, almost perfect. Hoagie thought it would have been a more exciting affair if he had been allowed to perform with the singers, but nobody thought that was such a good idea. Instead, he had to sit in the audience while the Cappy choir sang. This was the first time Katie would sing a solo, and Hoagie, being the great friend he was, supported her by standing up on someone's head and tried to clap the loudest once the song was finished. Unfortunately, since his paws were so tiny, only he could hear his applause. Much to the delight of everyone, the flamingos also joined the party, even though Flamingo Joe was scared of frogs. There were about 8 frogs and 2 toads in attendance. Joe and Poppy fluttered and pranced around while everyone laughed, sang, and danced the night away. Joe decided he was glad they had come. Before the party ended, a hush fell on the crowd, and Katie stood up on the stage. I would like to thank Mama Kinsey and Papa Carl for letting us go on our dream trip. I'd also like to especially thank our flamingo friends Joe and Poppy for agreeing to be our guides on this new and exciting adventure. Everyone turned to the flamingos and cheered. Joe's cheeks got very red. Katie continued, And to Hoagie, you are the best traveling companion any friend could hope for. You are never dull, you are game for anything, you are resourceful and smart, and you have a great sense of smell and hearing. What's not to love? More cheers rang out. Not only am I happy to be traveling with you, Hoagie, I'm also happy to share the stage with you tonight. Katie beamed at him. You could have heard a pin drop. With gaping mouths, the partygoers stared at Hoagie, who was thinking Katie was making a joke. He was waiting for the punchline. Hoagie had tried all year to sing in front of a bunch of people, but there was always some kind of excuse. Why did he think his luck was going to change now? Hoagie, what are you waiting for? Katie called out. Me? He asked quietly. He couldn't believe it. She was being serious. If only he had time to plan something brilliant. Yes, you silly, Katie said. Hoagie couldn't believe his incy ears. Creatures grunted as he hopped on their backs until he reached the stage. Oh, what shall we sing, Katie? Oh, there are too many good songs to choose from. Hoagie was so excited he thought he might faint. Let's sing Over the Rainbow. I'll sing the low part and you sing the high part, Katie said. Hoagie wished he had been prepared for a duet on stage. He usually started with a vocal warm-up, but he couldn't do that in front of everyone. It was too embarrassing. He looked out at the crowd and was suddenly shy. Hoagie had never felt nervous about singing in his entire life, but this time it was different. Everyone was staring at him, expecting him to be good, and it was so quiet. Even the chattering squirrels had stopped their jabbering. Hoagie's heart started beating faster, and his little paws began to sweat. His mouth got so dry, and his eyes started to water. For the first time ever, Hoagie had stage fright. Chapter 10. Oh My Day Day. Despite the awkward moment when Hoagie turned around and left the stage, the party still continued until the fireflies' glow could no longer be seen in the light of day. The forest creatures wished Hoagie and Katie well as they meandered to their own burrows, trees, and hideouts. The capybaras all huddled together to take a much-needed nap as Hoagie and Katie collapsed on the sand. That was quite a party! Thank goodness we're not leaving today, Hoagie. I think I'm going to nap all day, Katie yawned. No kiddin'. It was so nice to see all our friends in one place. I don't think I've ever stayed up that late in my life. Hoagie also yawned. Both of their eyes were drooping, and Katie was about to fall into a deep sleep when Hoagie muttered, And what was up with me not being able to sing? That has never happened to me before. Oh, it happens to me all the time, Hoags. Don't worry about it, Katie said sleepily. Really? I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's a good thing the birds started whistling to fill in the silence and the flamingos did a pretty dance. Do you think anyone noticed? Asked Hoagie. Nah, let's get some shut-eye, Hoagie, 'cause tomorrow we got a busy day ahead of us, Katie whispered. Hoagie slumped deeper into Katie's side and started to dream about singing Over the Rainbow in a perfect, sweet voice. In the dream, he was sliding down a beautiful rainbow shimmering like magic dust. By the time the sun glared high in the sky, the forest was still fairly quiet as most of the animals were napping from their festive evening. Hoagie and Katie and the younger capybaras slept most of the day until finally they got hungry enough to slowly stroll down to the lake. There was no splashing around that day, only short feedings and lazy time spent on the sand. Shortly after dinner time, the flamingos came back and went over the next day's plan with Hoagie, Katie, Mama Kinsey, and Papa Carl. It's best if you kids go in the early morning hours, as soon as the sun begins to rise. Most predators hunt in the evening, Papa Carl advised. The four friends agreed that they would meet up at dawn to start their adventure. They quickly said their goodnights and wondered how they were going to sleep feeling excited as they did. To get out some of their energy, Hoagie did a bunch of somersaults and hopscotched on capybara backs, while Katie swam back and forth in the lake, jogged to and fro, and bucked her back legs in the air. After about 10 minutes, the friends were exhausted and welcomed sweet sleep. After a very long, dream-filled slumber, Hoagie woke Katie up to get ready for their trip. They ate a ton, stretched a bit, and took turns grooming each other. Katie was getting so big, Hoagie could only do her 4 legs. The rest he left to her. The two brave friends said farewell to their capybara friends and family. There were some tears shed by Katie, Mama Kinsey, and the baby capybaras who would miss Hoagie dearly. All in all, there was a lot of excitement surrounding their departure. The exploration crew got ready to set out for Fruity Island, as it was going to be called because of all the mangoes growing there. As planned, Hoagie rode on Joe's back and Katie swam below them. Poppy started out flying with Joe and Hoagie, but eventually she swooped down to swim with Katie so she could get to know her better. I didn't know flamingos could swim so well. Katie was surprised that flamingos could swim at all. We can if we have to, but we prefer to fly, of course. Poppy wasn't really listening at the moment because she had a more pressing thing on her mind. She finally blurted, Don't you think Fruity Island is kind of a silly name for such a cool place, Katie? Well, what would you call it? Asked Katie. I don't know. Maybe the land of tiny, colorful birds or Blossom Paradise, Poppy pondered. Or maybe the Island of Sweetness, Katie exclaimed, licking her lips. Dulce means sweet, so how about Dulce Island? Poppy offered. Yes, that is the perfect name, agreed Katie. The capybara and flamingo passed the hours very easily, paddling and chattering together as only girls can do. They talked about their families, their friends, and their favorite foods. In no time at all, both of them had become fast friends. Meanwhile, Hoagie and Katie were catching up on lost time. Meanwhile, Hoagie and Joe were catching up on lost time. It had been a full year since they had seen each other. So, I see you filled out a little, Hoagie. You're all grown up now, Joe noticed. What do you mean by filled out? Hoagie wouldn't mind if Joe said he had gotten taller, or bigger, or more mature, but filled out? Hoagie didn't like the sound of that one bit. Well, maybe you're a bit more fluffy, I guess. Yeah. The forest has been good to you, is all I mean. You look healthy. Joe didn't want to make Hoagie feel bad. Instead of making up more stuff about Hoagie, how Hoagie changed, he flew closer to the water. You've grown up too, Joe. You seem taller and stronger, and your face has changed a little, said Hoagie. Really? I didn't notice. Joe flew closer to the water and seemed a little distracted. Oh, yeah, and your voice isn't as shaky as it used to be. It's deeper and more adult-like. Joe interrupted Hoagie by shouting, Hey, where are you going? I'm not going anywhere. You're not going since I'm sitting on you, buddy. Hoagie sat up taller on Joe's back. No, not you, Hoagie. I was talking to the pinkish flamingo that keeps following me around. He shows up at the strangest times and he never tries to chat. He just either flies below me or peeks at me from the water." "Weird. I didn't see anything, but I'll try to pay more attention next time," Hoagie promised. They were closing in on Dulce Island, and Hoagie was getting excited. From up high on Joe's back, he could already see part of the mango grove. He shouted down to the girls, "Katie, you're not going to believe how many mangoes there are on this island." "Oh, my day-day!" Katie hooted gleefully and began paddling faster. Poppy panted after her. "Hey, I'm not going to be able to keep up, Katie." Once all of the friends got to the sandy beach, Hoagie slid down Joe's long gray legs, landing in a flip. "What in the world does "oh my day-day" mean, guys?" asked Joe. "Is that a secret code for you two?" asked Poppy. She loved secret codes. When she was younger, she and her sisters had invented a whole language all their own. "Oh, it's what Hoagie has always said when he's scared, surprised, or super happy. I guess I say it now, too," giggled Katie. "Isn't that what everyone says?" Hoagie didn't think it was strange or a secret. He could have sworn he heard his humans exclaim, "Oh my day-day," a million times. "Honey, I've never said that in my entire life. Do you say that, Joe?" Poppy asked. "Nope, but I definitely shout it out. I'll definitely shout it out the next time I see my sneaky flamingo creep up," Joe answered. They went on for some time discussing Hoagie's unique choice of words until they came upon a flat, grassy meadow. Katie and Hoagie looked at each other and immediately dropped to the ground. The two buddies began rolling around in the grass like they wanted to get every inch of greenery on their bodies. The flamingos walked around them and moseyed over the compound. By the time Hoagie and Katie noticed they were frolicking in the grass alone, the flamingos had almost made it to the fence. "On your mark, get set, go!" Hoagie yelped, and they both kicked up dirt as they ran the race of their lives. Katie wanted to get to the fruit before Hoagie did, and Hoagie couldn't wait to explore. Unfortunately, in their excitement, they forgot all about the hairy beast Joe had warned them about.